Reactions are still trailing President Buhari's decision to withhold assent to the Electoral Act amendment bill. Many Nigerians have called on the National Assembly to either veto the president or remove the major clause in the contention that has to do with mandatory direct primaries for political parties and then represent the bill to the president. The presidency has explained the reason behind his decision, saying that the proposed amendments have significant legal, financial, economic and security consequences for all Nigerians, especially a spike in the cost of holding primary elections by parties. Presidential spokesman Garba Shehu emphasized that the president will do whatever he can to protect this country's democracy, including withholding assent from the bill. That's the crux of our next discussion now. So joining me in the studio is public affairs analyst Achike Chude. Achike, good morning and compliments of the season.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's good to see you after a little while.
Yes, it has been. It has been. It's a pleasure, really.
It's all right. Now, I wonder what you make of this, the president withholding his assent to the Electoral Act amendment bill. The point there is, of course, is within the president's powers or prerogative to say, yes, I agree, no, I don't agree when it comes to the Constitution and when it comes to the ideals of it. But the issue there is what Nigerians have, thought or imagined that this is the right way to go, as the case may be. But talk to us, what do you make of this?
Let's just say that the president, yes, while he can, he's entitled to have an opinion, but his opinion must be at all times in tandem with the opinions of Nigerians. So the president is not free to act on his own. Even governors are not free to act on their own, except to act in ways that are in consonance with the interest of their people. Otherwise, it will become an abuse. When a president just, has a particular disposition towards something, his own disposition, and not the disposition of the people, then it becomes a problem. Now, the president has said severally, he said some time ago, talking about the insecurity in the country. He said he would not want to be disgraced, by the terrorists. That he is somebody that is conscious of the verdict of history, and that he wants to be remembered positively by the verdict of history. For somebody who has that kind of mindset, he's so good at shooting himself in the foot. Because this is a president that came to power making promises to Nigerians. Nigerians welcomed him. That was why they voted for him. And there were three cardinal principles on which he wanted to build his government: the economy, insecurity, fighting insecurity, and then corruption, which have been the bane of Nigeria for quite some time. And then on all of these fronts, I believe that he has not done well. If you look at the economy today, look at the cost of consumer goods, look at the rate of unemployment, and so we're in dire straits economically. So there have been no success at that level. Corruption, looking at the index from the international international agencies, it's not also fantastic. And then you're talking about insecurity. We all know what is happening, even in his own home state. So if there is something, he has 16 years to leave power. And then, of course, people are beginning already to call him a lame duck president. Because at this particular point in time, the president's words will not exactly be something that even his subordinates are going to take extremely very seriously. He still has power. There are no two ways about it. But everybody is marking time. He's going to leave soon. So he has 16 months within which to leave a legacy that counts, that people are going to hold on to. He benefited, seriously from the reforms undertaken by the Yar'Adua administration through the WISE Commission on Electoral Reform. Under that platform, he was able to contest for the presidency and won. So one would think that having been left something tangible by his predecessors, that he would, as a statesman president, for instance, leave something, bequeath something of significance, value to his successors. So these are some of the issues. And if there's one thing that he can hold on to, I think this is it. This is something that people are going to remember him by. This is something that history will remember him by. But unfortunately, he has shut it down. Of course, the door has not closed yet, but people are becoming suspicious that perhaps the target of the presidential angst over the non-signing, leading to the non-signing of this reform bill, is the issue of electronic transmission collation of results. That it might not just be the issue of the party primaries, because he says, look, that if it's about direct party primaries, the PDP and the APC have the wherewithal to organize this. After all, the election that brought him, made him a candidate of the APC was a direct primary, election. He is talking about, on behalf of the smaller parties, that the big parties like the PDP and APC have done everything to muscle in the first place. All of a sudden, he's becoming, interested in what concerns those political parties. But they are so small, they don't even have the money to spend even for direct primaries. Exactly. So the argument is not exactly very sound. So we are hoping, because if you remember what happened in 2018, he had three opportunities, 3 times to do some kind of a reform of the electoral process. In March, I think maybe September, November, and then in December. It was delayed till December, and then when we got to December, it says no,
it was too close. It was too close to elections.
To the election and so on. So it is the same body language, and people are becoming suspicious that perhaps it's about playing for time. But of course, there's a solution. The National Assembly, just like you indicated in your opener, can actually do something about it. It is either they revisit the contentious aspect of that bill, which is the direct primaries, and then with a view to expunging it if they still feel that it might not be too important ultimately, and they want to use it as a bargaining chip, or they have the powers again to override the entire, presidential assent and then pass it into law. So this is not a time, it's not a hiding place for anybody. The National Assembly cannot hide. We are going to also remember them if they do not do the needful. It's not just the president that is empowered to sign this into law. The National Assembly also is empowered, because the other aspects of the bill that are good, apart from even electronic voting, there are provisions or clauses, for the disabled, people living with disabilities. And so all of these things are exceedingly very important.
Let's talk about the issue of the powers of the National Assembly to veto the presidential refusal to assent to bills. Well, if you look at the Fourth Republic, we've not really had cases, mentioned prominent cases where the National Assembly, a bill is rejected by the president and the National Assembly goes ahead to pass it after all. We've not had. Do you think this National Assembly has the capacity to do that?
Well, I think that has been the mindset of a lot of Nigerians. Okay. They do not think that the National Assembly, this National Assembly, Ninth National Assembly, has the levers, has the wherewithal, has the audacity, to engage the president in a tug of war and exercise their full constitutional responsibility by vetoing the bill. But that is what we are going to see, because if they do not muster the necessary ability to do that, then people are going to say that it was all an antique. It was all, a game plan by both the National Assembly and the presidency right from the very beginning. Even when they faced the controversy of not passing, of not allowing the transmission of results to go through the first time, and then following the barrage of public outcry, they were able to pass it. And they now bring it to the president. So if they are not able to override the president over this, Nigerians are going to see what they did with regards to passing the issue of, passing transmission as part of the job that INEC has to do. They are going to see it as a red herring, that it was never their intention in the first place, because they were cahoots, or in collaboration or conspiracy with the executive to play Nigerians along, only for them to be left, so rudely in their inability to pass it. So, like you said, they have the ability in terms of the powers given to them by the Constitution, but whether they have the necessary political will to do what is right. They have already, the fact that they have passed it tells you that they have they have decided that this is right. And then, of course, then again, perhaps even they might be in a position to pass the to veto it again, even with the inclusion of the direct primaries, because the direct primaries, there's a reason why they themselves have been insistent on direct primaries. It brings them into conflict with the governors.
The governors,
the governors
exactly.
have always had that power, to ride roughshod over legislatures, especially at the state level, even at the presidential level. And so this takes away that overarching power of the governors to do whatever they want with legislatures. Don't forget the battles, the serious battles we had across the entire states of this country from 1999. I mean, in 1999, when the members of State Assembly felt that it was their duty, constitutional duty, to supervise and oversight the executive. But the governors had a different thinking. They did not want any form of competition.
Exactly.
They wanted state houses of assembly that were passive, that were compliant. And so they did so much, even using thugs and the police to intimidate members of the state house of assembly, until most of them in virtually all parts of the country now had to kowtow to the dictates of the governors. So this is, I think, hopefully a battle between, the interest of the members of National Assembly, the ability to come back to power and to maintain some level of independence, as against the imperial powers of the governors.
But the way it's looking, except when the National Assembly comes back from their recess and they pass or they veto the president assent, it looks like the governors are technically having their way already, with because we heard the reports of how they had some of them had taken trips to see the president, asking him, urging him, advising him not to assent to the bill, as the case may be, and the president somehow, from what is playing out or what has played out, actually did not. So, but let's look at the content of the issue of the items by which the rejection from the president came. One of the issues was the issue of the cost of conducting a primary election. Now, I've had some analysts here who said that, who have said, when it comes to primary election, we don't even need so much money. INEC is not going to be the one spending the money. The political parties are the ones who will. We remember the days of the option A4. Come, just line up and we'll count all of you. We'll count who. So from there, who has even won or who has lost the election, as the case may be. But talk to us from that window generally.
Yeah, I think what they were trying to do, I think it's some level of semantic sophism. They were working towards an answer. And do not forget that the Attorney General figures significantly in the whole of this discourse. And I think the president had to rely so much on the position of the Attorney General. And that's why, people have been saying that the position of Attorney General and the Minister of Justice should be separated. So you have somebody as an Attorney General who is whose primary responsibility is the rule of law, making sure that he protects government interest with regards to legal implications of some of the things that government does and all that. And then the Minister of Justice, that is essentially a political appointment that finds himself beholden to the party. So I think what we see in an attorney, in the Attorney General is more of the political figure. Like I say, it's a dual responsibility, but it is the politician that is coming to the fore. He is looking at the interest, to his party, to the party, to the APC as a party, and the political interest to the, various, people within the APC, especially the governors, and that he has pandered more to that. Because if you look at it, there have been suggestions that the cost is going to balloon to as much as 500 billion naira. That's according to the federal government, but that is not the truth. What the bill INEC gave to the federal government is about 205 billion naira as the cost of the election. And just like you have said, the president said, look, that the APC and the PDP, the dominant political parties, are the ones that are going to, have the wherewithal to take on, the financial cost of the primaries. Now, most of the other political parties are nowhere, apart from the ABGA and one or two from, I think, one or two other political parties that have seats at the National Assembly.
The YPP?
Exactly. The other political parties have not made any gain of note within the political process. Those ones do not have even the wherewithal to whether it is direct primaries or indirect primaries and all that. So that would vitiate the argument of the presidency that it is going to be expensive. Expensive for whom? For which of the political parties? A lot of these parties are really nowhere, and they can conduct their affairs. Even if it is a direct primary, they have the machinery to conduct it because without spending money. Some of these parties we are talking about, for instance, the issue, why are they not talking about the amount of money that the APC and PDP, for instance, charge their candidates to buy nomination forms? The smaller political parties do not impose any financial burden of any kind to any of the candidates who want to run on their platforms. So this is something that is really manageable. And then INEC, what are they going to be spending money on? Really, they can work with so many other groups. They can work with credible society organizations, and so if they want some of these things to be monitored. After all, they have been working with people within the our educational institutions in the country, and then with ad hoc staff that are not permanent staff of INEC. So when it comes to the issue of course, and I think it's just an argument that the government wanted to make because they were already working towards an answer.
Let's talk about this issue of, this is not the first time. Recall that in 2005 or 2006, when under former President Olusegun Obasanjo, the issue of third term, was amongst a collection of so many other things when it comes to the issue of a constitutional review at that time. And everything was jettisoned because of one of the clauses, and a few things like that. This has also happened. Now, talk to us from that, how this deals a blow on our democracy, where there are a collection of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 items, beautiful items, but because one is contentious or controversial in one way or the other, then everything is thrown away.
Yeah, we hope that we don't get back to that situation, because that was a very unfortunate situation. You cannot punish 10 people for the crime of one, because this is the analogy you are trying to, make. Look, I know that civil society has expended so much energy and so much, finance. They have done so much to get to this level. They have been able, even before now, some of them have been able to engage members of National Assembly on certain crucial aspects of this bill. They have, had, group discussions where they invited some of these people to let them see the light, more or less, if I use that expression. And then a lot of them actually promised, having seen the importance of reforming the electoral process, promised that they were going to get to this level, which they have gotten to by sending the bill to the president for assent. So we hope that, and of course, there is this saying about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And we hope that that is not going to happen, because there's so much that is dependent on this bill. We have seen, I was in Anambra State, and I saw how the beavers, was able to work and the capacity that it has. And there are so many other aspects that are crucial. For instance, and it also helps the politician in terms of how much money they spend, and then in terms of their proclivity for subverting the electoral process. Because what this does is that the normal pattern before now has been to send some group of thugs into polling centers to beat up the people, harass the people, and run away with the ballot box. Now that is not going to happen.
Exactly.
Because as long as votes are taking place, the results are going somewhere. So if maybe after 2 hours of the voting process, you send in thugs to come and disrupt the process,
we already have a result.
Do you understand? So what it means is that it's good for the politicians, because they do not have to spend money to employ thugs. You are going to have an electoral process that is more, free in terms of the inability of the politicians to cause the mischief that they have always done. And then again, it now puts them in a position where they are forced to now go to the public, to the electorate, to campaign to the electorate, to canvass for votes, because the old ways of cheating during the election, of sending talks, is not going to work anymore. Now you now have to do the talk,
the real job.
The real job of convincing people why they need to vote for you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Achike, for your analysis and dissection of this issue. It really makes a lot of sense. And we see how things will play out in the coming days and weeks and months. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.